Hello and welcome to Boom and Gloom, a podcast where I talk about the good, the boom, and the bad, the gloom, of Columbus Blue Jackets hockey. I am Anthony, or Whaler Jacket, as you might know me on social media, and I am Ohio's longest-suffering hockey fan. I'm a 48-year-old diehard hockey fan who has only seen his favorite team, currently the Blue Jackets, formerly the Whalers, make it past the first round of the playoffs once. Plus, I had my favorite team, the Whalers, ripped away from me, moved to Carolina. Plus, my alma mater, Miami University, their hockey team made it to the NCAA championship. I forget which year it was. They were up by 2 goals with a minute left in the game and lost. They lost. Have never been back to the national championship since. So I challenge you people, find a longer suffering hockey fan than me. I used to say longest suffering NHL fan, but I think I can honestly say I'm the longest suffering hockey fan in Ohio. With that, let's get down to business. I always open, when I do my hello, welcome to Boom and Gloom thing, I always say we talk about the good, which is the boom, and the gloom, which is the bad. And I have to say, for the first time in a long time, this season, I'm talking more about the boom. I'm talking more about the good. A lot of good stuff going on right now. This year has been so much fun so far. It's been amazing. So let's talk about it. Not the usual ranting and raving about how us Blue Jackets fans are suffering. This team is just so much fun to watch. It has been so unexpected that the fact that they are not just doing well, but actually in a playoff spot as I sit here recording this, that's incredible. Now, the Jackets have won 6 straight games at the time of this recording, and they face the New York Rangers tonight at Madison Square Garden. They play something like 8 of the next 10 on the road, something like that. I don't expect the streak to continue, and in fact, I just don't have a good feeling, about coming out of New York tonight and their wonderful garages with a win. And I hope I'm wrong. But I will say this. Overall, I think these next 10 games, they might bring us down to earth. I can totally see us going 5-5 or worse. But hopefully like 6-4 or better. You just never know. And that's what makes this season the most fun, I think. I think this is what really makes this season fun, is that this team has done nothing but surprise us this season. So you just never know. There was a time earlier this season, fairly recently, they had a 6-game losing streak. And I thought, here we go. We're back. We're back to being the long-suffering Blue Jackets fans. This team is, going to just crumble now. But they didn't. And now they've won 6 games in a row. Now they're in a playoff position. So let's go. Let's keep this going. First thing I want to talk about today. And by the way, I am battling some allergy issues, so I may have to cough. I may have to clear my throat. I apologize ahead of time. But the first thing I want to talk about today, after a long, long wait, the Stadium Series jerseys have been released. And there have been some mixed reactions to them. My reaction, I love them. Love them. I was resigned to the idea that they would just, do something like include the word Columbus in like script letters or something, like maybe even to resemble how the word Ohio is written in Ohio State football games. I thought they'd have the word Columbus or Blue Jackets written in script on the front of their jerseys, and that would be it. It would be just kind of a boring, plain jersey. But they surprised me. I was over the moon when I saw them. My son texted me while I was at work, and directed me to the pictures of them, and wow, I was just very impressed. I immediately hopped online to see what the cost would be to buy one, and the lowest price I saw was something like $250. I am not shelling out that much money for a hockey jersey. I never have, and I never will. Okay, I know, excuse me, I know some people, they're avid jersey collectors, and they want to have the authentic or, top of the line stuff. I don't need that. I just give me a cheap replica. As long as it generally looks the same, I'm happy. So what I did, I went to a less than reputable knockoff website, and I bought a fake one for $36. Who knows what I'll get? I get that, all right? Last time I ordered a Shorzy jersey, a Sudbury Blueberry Bulldogs jersey from a site like this, I received a St. Louis Cardinals baseball jersey. True story. I got that taken care of with the company, but I'm still waiting on that Shorzy jersey. But again, I love what the Jackets did with it. Kudos to the design team, and I can't wait to see them on the ice. Even though they'll probably look microscopic. I confess I have never been to a game at the Shoe or, any other outdoor hockey game except my own. I mean, when I played an away high school hockey game in a town called New Canaan, Connecticut. I played in an outdoor arena or outdoor rink. But I assume with the Stadium Series game, with a stadium of that size, seated as far away from the ice surface as I will be, the players are going to look small. But it's all about the atmosphere though, right? Very much looking forward to it. Can't wait for March 1st. And you know what the Jackets need for that game? Boomer. I am dead serious. They have got to wake up Boomer from wherever he slumbers and bring him to the game. I cannot think of a single fan who would not appreciate that. I have heard some podcasts, including Front and Nationwide with Aaron Portzline, where it has been discussed. So hopefully there's enough momentum and fan support to make it happen. Let me move on to my next segment. As I mentioned earlier, and if you are listening to this podcast, you are probably already well aware, the Jackets have won 6 in a row. They sit in a playoff spot right now, and considering how jam-packed the Eastern Conference is, who knows how long that will last. I think we will really see what the Jackets are made of in the next 10 or so games. I would not be surprised either way. Okay, if they went, 6-4 or 7-3 or better, I mean, that's obviously a win. That's a win. That's a solid win. 5-5, they, that'll keep them afloat. It'll keep them afloat in the standings. Whatever happens, though, I think we can all agree nobody expected them to be playing this well. Nobody expected them to be in the thick of the playoff hunt towards the end of January. I mean, this is a team that has gone through a horrible tragedy, has a new coach, new front office staff, of course some new players, and the team is closer to the cap floor than the cap ceiling. I, for one, I did not expect them to be in a playoff spot in the last 2 weeks of January. I'm just astounded. I expected, or maybe just hoped, that they would be playing some meaningful games past like Christmas, and here we are, playing meaningful games. If you look back towards the beginning of the season, I expected them to not be in playoff contention, and I would have considered them at that point. I would have bet money that they would be sellers at the deadline, at the trade deadline. My question is, since we are in the playoff hunt now, What do the Jackets do at the deadline? I know it's a couple months away still, but it's fun to think about. And there's so much to consider. Are they buyers? Sellers? Who knows? Maybe a bit of both. All options seem to be reasonable in my mind. Like if they're buyers, okay, that makes sense to me. If they're sellers, that makes sense to me. If they're neither, if they just stay put with what they have, that makes sense to me. I mean, all these options seem to make sense. And I think it will boil down to where they are a few weeks before the deadline before we really get an idea of what they're going to do. But I want to take you through a couple of scenarios here. Scenario 1, Jackets are buyers. For this to happen, again, I believe that about 2 weeks or so before the trade deadline, the Jackets have to either be in a playoff spot or very, very close to one, like just a point or two out. And even that doesn't really sell me on the idea of being buyers. But let's just hypothesize, though, okay? What do the Jackets do? For me, being buyers does not address the biggest need the Jackets have right now. And that, in my opinion, is better goaltending. That is their biggest need. I don't believe they would be able to bring in a new starting goaltender via trade by the deadline. I, of course, could be wrong, but I just don't see that happening. So what do you do instead? If you can't bring in that goalie, what do you do instead? Bring in a forward? Maybe. But right now, the Jackets have lots of scoring depth. All right. They have plenty of bottom six players and an offense that's ranked in like the top 5 or so in the league. And I can't remember the exact ranking, but they're up there in the top part of the league in terms of total team offense. So unless you want to bring in an upgrade to the top 6, like a rental, which I don't see Don Waddell parting with assets for, then that means he's going to go for an upgrade to the bottom 6. Excuse me again. And if you do that, if you decide to upgrade the bottom 6, who do you ship out? What do you ship out? Who comes out of the bottom 6 to make room for the new guy? So with all that in mind, I think most likely the position that you're going to upgrade, if you're not going to upgrade the goaltending, or if you decide not to upgrade the forward core, is the defense. But even that gets murky. If you bring someone in, then someone has to be shipped out. Provorov is the most likely candidate and has been for a while. And I'll talk more about him later, okay? But with Erik Goodbranson now said to be returning this season, you now have kind of a glut of defensemen. You can send Matejchuk down, but at this point, he seems to have earned a spot in the starting lineup. Severson's contract makes him pretty much untradeable, and we would never trade Werenski, and I'll get into him later. He's been phenomenal. So that leaves the tradable candidates, Provorov, Christianson, Harris, and Johnson. Now my gut says Johnson stays. Whether I want him to or not, it's a whole other story. But my gut says he stays. And then my gut also says that he retires after this season. So you have to move one or more of the other 3. Provorov, Christianson, Harris. Do they do that? Do they move someone else besides Provorov? Do they move Christianson or Harris? Depends on what's available, I guess. But that's if you want to buy. If you want to buy, you have to ship someone out. You have to make room for someone. And by my count, we have 9 guys. With Goodbranson coming back, we have 9 defensemen. That's too much right there. Something has to give. Now, scenario number 2. The Jackets are sellers. I'm going to say something here that may tick off listeners, okay? Let me ask you something. Do you see this team, as it is built right now, making a deep run into the Stanley Cup playoffs? In other words, do you see this team as a team capable of winning the Stanley Cup? Considering the Jackets' average age and experience level, considering our goaltending situation, considering what we have on defense, I just don't see it happening, guys. I want to see it happening, and I'm surprised the Jackets are doing this well. So I guess it could happen because it has been a season of surprises. They can keep surprising us. But being realistic, I don't see this team, as it stands now, as a legit Stanley Cup contender. So if we are not going to make a deep, deep run, my feeling is, why waste assets to bring in some rentals that are not going to get us to the promised land? I believe Don Waddell would prefer to stockpile like draft picks and prospects. I think that's more his style. And I think as a smart assessor of the talent and the current situation, I think he knows where we stand. So I think it is still more likely, based on what I just said, that the Jackets are sellers at the deadline. And I believe it is mostly because of that one thing. They have to make some room. With Goodbranson coming back, something has to give on defense. We can't have 9 guys. We can't have 9. 8 is possible. We've done that this season. But 9, that's too much. So that leads me to think Provorov is still going to be traded. I think that the assets that we get in return outweigh the positives of keeping the guy. You know, despite him wanting to be here, despite him playing better, it doesn't matter. 2 things need to improve with this team, in my opinion, for next season. Goaltending and defense. Our offense has been fantastic, and I truly believe it's going to keep getting better. Fantilli is going to keep getting better. Johnson is going to keep getting better. When Chinnikov comes back, our offense is going to be even better. So that means we really need to focus on, or Waddell really needs to focus on, improving our goaltending and our defense. If Provorov is kept, they end up keeping him. Next season, our defense looks like this. Werenski, Fabro, who I believe Waddell is gonna bring him back. Matejchuk, Severson, Christianson, Goodbranson, Harris. Okay, that's too many guys. Okay? So one of those would have to go, most likely Harris. Barring any trades, of course, okay, which I think will happen. I will talk about that later. I think we're going to see some trades before the season begins next year. There's just so many moving parts right now. And honestly, it's fun to think about all this. It's fun to think about the possibilities. Anyway, if Waddell wants to upgrade the defense, and I believe he does recognize that there is a need for that, then some pieces have to be moved off. Provorov has to go. Otherwise, we have the same defense next season as this season. And we don't want that. We need an upgrade. So we trade Provorov. We want to slightly revamp our defense and not keep the same old players. Right? Who else? Possibly Christianson and or Harris. Okay? They might be moved out. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in a bit. And as for the forwards, hear me out on this, okay? Deadline comes around. Waddell will look to trade Corrali, Danforth, and LeBanc. My thinking is that Corrali and Danforth are on expiring contracts. I love the veteran presence that Corrali brings, I love the tenacity and effort that Danforth brings. But the fact is, again, they're on expiring contracts and they are bottom 6 forwards. We have some young players waiting in the wings to step into those positions in the bottom 6. People like James Malatesta, Mikhail Putia, and then Luca Del Belbaluz maybe on the third line. Gavin Brindley maybe. Or these young players get some time at the end of the year, but then next season we look to further upgrade the bottom 6. We look for an upgrade from Corrali, an upgrade from Danforth. So that's my take. The Jackets, Don Waddell, recognize that they are not Stanley Cup contenders. Playoff contenders maybe, but not Cup contenders. They don't go out and spend assets on rentals. Instead, they gather more assets. They allow the young players to step in and see what they have. They allow themselves the opportunity to spend some money and upgrade the bottom 6 in the offseason. So in conclusion, the Jackets are going to be sellers. You heard it from me. They have shown that they can play well enough without Jenner, Goodbranson, Chinnikov, Monahan, and Danforth. Their young players can step in and fill a role. They've done it. We have a 6-game winning streak to show it. We have a playoff position right now to show for it. So why not gain some picks, gain some prospects, get out of some expiring contracts, and play the best they can. Maybe getting to the playoffs, maybe winning a series, maybe even winning 2. Wouldn't that be something? But keep your focus on the future. We have taken a major step this year, a major step. But don't lose sight of the long-term goal. I would rather the Jackets have moderate success this season, be sellers at the deadline, to set them up to have major success next season and beyond. Let's see if Waddell agrees with me. Okay, moving on to my next segment. I wanted to take some time to kind of analyze the Blue Jackets defense for next season. I kind of mentioned it earlier, so I wanted to kind of expand on this a little bit, kind of do a deep dive into our defense. I want to list them first, then I'm going to talk about each one a little bit, and then I'll give you my prediction about whether they will be playing any games for the Jackets next season. So as I mentioned earlier, there are 9 defensemen. If you count Goodbranson, there are 9 defensemen currently on the Blue Jackets roster. I'm going to run through them here. Zach Werenski, Dante Fabro, Jake Christianson, Denton Matejchuk, Eric Goodbranson, Damon Severson, Damon Harris, or is it Damian Harris? Damian Harris, Jack Johnson, Ivan Provorov. So let's go through that list, all right? Because as I mentioned earlier, if we're going to upgrade our defense, something has to give. And I want to share with you my idea. Werenski. Zach Werenski, OMG. This guy has been nothing but impressive. He better be a finalist for the Norris if his current play continues. I mean, there's even been some talk about him up for the Hart this year. I mean, he's been that good. He's been exceptional. So he obviously stays with the Jackets next season. Dante Fabro. Now, there are mixed feelings out there about him that I've read. Do the Jackets bring him back? I think he's played well with Zach Werenski on that top pair. And even if he doesn't continue as his partner, I still think the Jackets bring him back. I think Evason likes him. I mean, if he's putting him on the top pair and he's working with Werenski well, he's doing something right. So I think he stays. I think he's brought back next year. Jake Christianson's next. This guy has been spectacularly average. And I'm saying that as a good thing. He's been a solid defenseman who has quietly done his job this year, and he's made minimal mistakes. So he has impressed me in this regard this season. I mean, we like it, right? When a defenseman just quietly does his job, doesn't make huge mistakes, just goes about his business. However, the Jackets have to upgrade their defense somewhere, and someone has to be moved out. And ladies and gentlemen, he's my pick. I like him, but he's my pick. He will be part of an off-season trade if I had to predict. He moves on somewhere else. Jake Christianson will not be a Blue Jacket next year. Next up, Denton Mateychuk. He's earned the right to stay. We haven't seen anything too flashy from him yet. He's just played some solid defense. So I'm not sure if he'll even be sent back down to the AHL this year. But my prediction is he will be in the lineup next year. So he is a Jacket next season. Erik Gudbranson. I never thought I would have said this. But I really like having him on our team. And I apologize, guys. My daughter is currently playing with my dog. And there's some squeaking and running going on in the background. So I apologize for that. Anyway, Gudbranson. He brings experience. He brings toughness. He brings leadership. He has 1 year remaining on his contract. I think he'll be back next season. Or it's possible that we flip-flop. We keep Christianson and find a trade partner for Gudbranson. But I think Gudbranson's toughness and his leadership and his experience, I think all that trumps Christianson's potential. Next up, Damon Severson. Dang it, Jarmo. Jarmo did a lot of good while he was here, but also made plenty of bad choices, bad decisions, and this was one of them. It's a big one. It would be an absolute miracle if someone touched Severson's contract in a trade. I mean, what an awful contract. So for better or for worse, making a prediction, he will be a Blue Jacket next year. Jordan Harris next. Unimpressive, but not horrible. I think he would be fine as a 7th defenseman next season. But again, some things have to give. And my money is on Harris being somewhere else next season. Jack Johnson, gone. He will not be back next year. So I honestly think he will retire at the end of this season rather than try to jump back on for one more season. And I don't think the Blue Jackets will sign him for another year. I don't think they'll say, yeah, we'll have you back for one more season. I just do not see that happening. So Jack Johnson's gone, in my opinion. And that leaves Ivan Provorov, and I've already explained earlier, I think he's gone at the deadline. So let me sum up. Our defense next year will be, in no particular order, Werenski, Fabro, Mateychuk, Gudbranson, Severson. That's 5. 5D. Then, the Jackets bring in another dude via trade or free agency to round out the top 6. So we add one defenseman through trade or free agency. And then either call up, and I always have a hard time saying his name, Svozil, or someone like that, or sign someone else as a 7th defenseman. Okay, and again, I'm predicting that Harris moves on. So we have somebody else as the 7th defenseman who can play well enough to crack the lineup when Severson makes boneheaded mistakes, which, as we all know, is all but a guarantee. So there you have it. My prediction for the Jackets' defense next season. Werenski, Fabro, Mateychuk, Gudbranson, Severson. Those 5 will be our defensemen next year, and we'll have two new people on the roster. Now, I do have a question, though, that I just don't know the answer to. All right? A lot of people out there agree with me about Severson. Considering his healthy scratches Even Dean Evison seems to understand that he is not worth what we are paying him. My question is, what is he worth? Okay, I mean, since the Jackets are so close to the cap floor, it just makes me wonder, would they be willing to eat part of his salary to facilitate a trade? Now, I know that the term is also bad, and I know Severson is not enticing at his current contract hit, but what if the Jackets ate some of it? Would that make him tradable? Would, an addition by subtraction approach make sense? I admit, guys, I am not good with contract analysis, so this is a genuine question here, okay? I'm putting it out here. I honestly don't know. I'm honestly asking, is it possible to do that? Is that something that would make his contract tradable? Because right now it is not tradable. But would eating some of his salary make it tradable? And would the Jackets be willing to do that considering the cap space they have? You want to trade Severson? Make it so his contract isn't so bad. You have so much cap space to work with. So I just wonder if addition by subtraction would work in this. And again, it's an honest question. I don't know the answer. I'm putting it out there. So that's it, guys. I actually there is one more thing I wanted to bring up, and that is Yegor Chinakhov. I'm getting kind of worried about this guy. He has been injured far too frequently, it seems, and for unexplained reasons. I mean, he's been out for 20-something games now, and I don't know about you guys, but I don't remember what even happened to him. I know what happened to Boone Jenner. I know exactly what happened to him. I know exactly what happened to Goodbranson. We witnessed it. We saw it happen in that game. We saw what happened to Kent Johnson that game. But I don't remember anything significant happening to Chinakhov in his last game. When they said he was going to be out, I figured it was going to be a game or two. And then it turned into several games, and now it turns into a crap load of games. I mean, 20-something games is a lot. Quarter of a season gone. So it makes me wonder about him. It makes me wonder, number one, can he stay healthy? Or is he going to be made of glass like Patrick Laine was? And if he can't stay healthy, hear me out on this. Is it possible the Jackets try to move on from him? Try to get some assets for him? Try to get, and I use the word asset, and usually that's, you consider that like a prospect, but in this situation, a bigger name. Would another team view him as an up-and-coming star player, and then be willing to trade some higher-level players for him as part of a package? So it just makes me wonder, when someone is injured that often, like Ryan Murray was, where the injuries prevent a player from reaching their star potential, it just makes me wonder, is it time to move on from him? And I'm not saying I want to move on from him. I'm just putting that out there as an option. Is that something to consider? Something to think about. Well, guys, that is it now. Now I will wrap this up here. Thank you so much for taking time to listen to me today. Come back anytime, and please feel free to connect with me. Find me on Blue Sky or Instagram at Whaler Jacket. I am there. You can ask me questions. I say that, and then I think to myself, who the heck wants to ask me questions? I'm just another fan. I'm not an expert. I just like to talk hockey. So if you just want to talk hockey, if you want to ask a question just for the purpose of talking hockey, not, admitting that I'm an expert and I am deserving of, giving advice or giving my opinion. No, just to chat about hockey. Feel free to hit me up. I'm there. Again, Whaler Jacket, Blue Sky, Instagram, or even old-fashioned email, whalerjacket@gmail.com. Be happy to hear from you. Talk to you guys again Go Jackets.